I didn't want to suffer. And so I was willing to do those forgiveness prayers because I didn't want to suffer. And I think that's really the most important thing for anyone who's listening is wherever you're suffering, whether it's financially, health-wise, you're being driven mad by the politics of today, that's suffering, and it's your choice. You don't have to do it.
Speaking of suffering, and speaking of Kundalini, that's not an experience that you recommend that we seek.
Well, I've known, there's a book I read when I first had the Kundalini Awakening, and it was called Spiritual Emergency. I can't remember the name of the author. And it was about Westerners accidentally triggering Kundalini awakenings. And it causes a lot of difficulty in Westerners because we do not have a society or a culture that supports it or understands it or has any philosophy about it whatsoever. If you have a Kundalini awakening and you're living in India, you're going to have a completely different experience because the entire culture and religion understands what it is and will support you through it and will in fact feed you. If you have a Kundalini awakening in a place like India, you're going to be supported by people who understand what it is and what's happening, that it's a gift, it's a spiritual gift. But if you're in a Western society, you may very well end up in a psych ward. I can tell you, I can guarantee that if I had gone to a psychiatrist when I was going through that Kundalini experience, they would have committed me. Absolutely, I have no doubt. And when I had the first energetic experience, which lasted about 90 minutes, the activation began, I looked like I was having a seizure. I was in ecstasy. My entire mind and body was in absolute ecstasy, but I looked like I was having a fit. So, but it was because of my spiritual education, 25 years of reading spiritual books, and in that year before my awakening, I was put in a rental situation, and the library in the rental situation was all about Tantra and Kundalini, subjects I'd never studied. But I think I was put into that apartment so that I could read all those books because this was what was going to happen to me. So I had a year of studying books on Kundalini awakenings and tantric practices. So when it started, I knew exactly what it was. And so I surrendered to it completely. I think a lot of people in the West, Jesus calls them speed bumps. And that's your resentments and fears and that kind of thing. If you haven't worked through a lot of those things, when the energy of a Kundalini hits you, it hits those things like speed bumps, just like a car. If you're going fast and the Kundalini energy is fast, when it hits a resentment or a fear, it can cause a lot of problems in the body, in the nervous system, in the physical body. So in that book, Spiritual Emergency, a lot of Westerners who accidentally trigger Kundalini awakenings can have terrible physical consequences, like getting extremely hot, being unable to work, nervousness, weakness, all kinds of things. The reason I just caution people against seeking a Kundalini is that you actually don't know what you're asking for. When I had that Kundalini awakening, I was phoning ashrams in all over the place because I did not know how I was going to function. I couldn't work. I didn't know how I was going to live with this tremendous amount of energy coursing through my body all the time. And I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I didn't know anybody at the time who understood what it was. I started to explain what was happening to people. People think you're crazy. I was lucky. I was well educated, and I'd been doing the course for 12 years. So I'd studied for a year as a bioenergy healer. So I understood the chakras and I understood how energy works. So I had been very well educated by spirit when that Kundalini awakening happened. So I would say, if you're meant to have a Kundalini awakening, do the course. Do the course, because I wasn't doing yoga classes all the time. I wasn't eating clean all the time. All of the things that we get prescribed to do to have a spiritual awakening, I wasn't doing. The only thing I was doing was intense prayer and forgiveness practice. That's all I was doing.
Did that practice of forgiveness help guide you through the, that's what led you to that point, but did it also help see you through the actuality of the experience?
No, not really, because it was really the spiritual education that I'd had that allowed me to surrender to the Kundalini experience. So because I knew what was happening, sort of, I mean, the first 3.5 weeks, Ananda, my guides, hadn't made contact yet. I just knew that I was having a Kundalini awakening, and I kind of understood what the consequences of that was to some degree. I didn't know what they were actually going to be for me specifically in terms of the gifts that come with a Kundalini awakening. But you have to understand, I was in ecstasy for 3.5 weeks. It's really not a horrible experience. It wasn't a horrible experience at all. And 3.5, I contacted a channeler here where I live now, and I told her what was happening. And she said, look, I'm having an automatic writing workshop this weekend. I was about 3 weeks into this. I knew Spirit was making contact with me. I just didn't really know what was going to happen. And she said, I'm having an automatic writing workshop this weekend. Why don't you come? And I said, I don't have any money. She said, that's okay. Just come. And so I came, and that was when my guides and teachers made contact with me through the automatic writing, which is a common way for guides and teachers to connect with people. But my forgiveness practice, I think, and this is what the Course is very clear about, I have an ongoing forgiveness practice. My mind still wants to judge things. I'm amazed how quickly it can judge, but I've learned to deal with it so quickly because of the Course training that it never really gets any traction with me anymore, unless it's a particularly deeply entrenched belief that I have, which happens. So forgiveness was not really, I really wasn't judging it negatively at all, the whole Kundalini thing. I knew what it was. I knew what was happening on a certain level. And at this retreat, the automatic writing retreat, my guides and teachers came through very quickly and told me what was happening. They said, we are Ananda, we're your guides and teachers. We are going to write books through you, and this is your life's purpose now. That was their first contact. That's what they told me at first. So I wasn't surprised by that because of just what I'd gone through in my life. And I surrendered to it completely. Again, 12 years of doing the Course, you are used to surrendering. The Course is constantly asking you to surrender, right? To stop judging, to allow. And so 12 years of practice of this was, I think, the prerequisite to having this channeling opportunity in a way. When I channel, I just surrender. That's all I do. So I've been doing it for a long time. I've been surrendering for a long time.